All right. All right, everyone. Welcome. We are so excited, folks, to have today. Today is our third uh, episode of the Formula Series. Today, I'm going to call it Straight Out Cruises, okay? Because I have the most incredible person here. I would consider Tom truly one of the point masters in our world of points and miles. And Tom Kim here, or TK as he also known as, is based out in Virginia. We used to be neighbors at one time. I used to work in Virginia, and I literally lived in a hotel that was like a few blocks away. And I would go out, and I would be hungry, and I'm like, Tom, do you want to come to dinner with me? And Tom would come, and Tom was so gracious, showed me around all the places, come keep me keep me company during that time. So for the few years out there, I built a great relationship with Tom. Tom is fantastic, and I learned so much just being around him, and he's a great listener. And he's going to share with us probably something that many of us have heard about. Many of us know other people who've done it. Maybe some have done it, but Tom has done a ton of cruises. Tom, can before we kind of get started about that, did you start off being a cruise expert, or was it something that you always wanted
Well,
to do? Or was something
I
developed over time?
I would say as a humble guy, I don't want to call myself a cruise expert or anything like that, but I will give a little bit of my bona fides. Like last year, I spent more than 2 months at sea, um, and pretty much did not spend any money on those cruises other than taxes and gratuities. That's really what I had to pay out of pocket for most of those. Now, so most of those were complimentary. But yeah, I have cruised quite a lot. I thought 2022 was a great year to do cruising. And I think I pivoted toward moving a lot of my travel. I've been in the miles and points game for quite a while, so I've been, interested in miles and points since I think I remember I got my first elite status one day when I saw my friend, we were both on the same flight together, and suddenly she went up to first class and went, and I was like, "What? How come I'm sitting back here in coach?" And that really did inspire me to figure out what is this frequent flyer program thing that people have, and I never looked back. So, but yeah, last 12 to 24 months has been a lot of cruising. I pivoted a lot of my travel money and time and energy and interest into cruising because felt like that is an area where there's still a lot of value and a lot of interest for people in general. So I'd love to talk about that experience.
Let's talk about this. For those who are not cruise people, I've been on maybe two cruises in my
Hmm.
life. My wife is not a cruiser. She's afraid of water. She's always afraid she's gonna die at sea. I know people have like superstitions, things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously during COVID, a lot of people, got stuck, afraid of getting stuck on a boat. If there
Hmm.
was an outbreak and things like that. Can you give us maybe a little bit about your background in terms of where you think um, cruises are, the state of cruises are today? Is it safe to get back on a cruise nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's generally safe. I mean, you're just as you're going to be around just as many people going to the grocery store or the mall, or and or quite honestly, flying. If anywhere you're going to be putting yourself at risk from an epidemiological perspective or viral, from a virus perspective or whatever, it's going to be, on in a metal tube for where you're, this close to people for 4 or 5 hours, or let alone transatlantic flight or something. Um, so I generally think cruising is safe. I mean, don't that that being said, I just came off a cruise. I was on one on Tuesday. I got off a boat on Tuesday, and I did come off with the sniffles. I tested myself. I was not COVID positive, and I'm pretty much over that cold that I had from the cruise that I left on Tuesday. But that stuff is going to happen. But I think that stuff is going to happen. But I also flew. I was on a United flight, so I mean, maybe I got something on that. I couldn't say for sure.
Absolutely. So Tom, let's talk a little bit about cruising. You
Mhm.
mentioned right at the beginning, at the offset, you said you spent very little money except for tax gratuity, and you got on all these cruises. How does someone do that, or how did you do that? Maybe we'll start off with that.
Yeah, so I also want to preface it. A lot of that was because I am I wouldn't say completely degenerate gambler, but I am a gambler. I do enjoy the casinos on these various cruise lines, and that's the primary method that I get my travel costs offset. So, I won't deny that I had gambling losses. I didn't make money, in the casinos every time I went. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. But I can say by and large, what I paid in cruise fare, or at least as far as gratuities and taxes and port fees, is a small fraction of what the value that I got from the 10 or so cruises I did last year. So,
Wow.
which I didn't really pay anything other than that.
Now you're saying that you're gambling on the actual cruise itself.
Mhm.
How do we get on the cruise? Do we have to gamble outside the cruise before we get on the cruise?
There's so many ways to do it. So, I didn't start off that way. So my first cruise, I probably didn't take one until about 2007 or 8 was probably my first cruise. And I did pay for them. I paid out of pocket. The cruise fare. I just go onto Expedia or Travelocity or whatever. And, I do that, maybe one a year for a while. And that was kind of the normal thing. And then I realized at some point, I think about 2017, 2018, that there were these casino loyalty programs within the cruise programs. And I got to understand them better because, honestly, things like casino comps and, the kind of casino loyalty programs, they're, I think, by intention, a little bit mysterious. They don't want to give you all the details. They kind of want you guessing on how much you need to gamble to do what you need to do. But I did end up gravitating toward Royal Caribbean, which is a mass market brand, and I think they do a pretty good job overall of cruising, and that's who the majority of those cruises were with. And their program is a program called Casino Royale, or is it Club Royale? I think it's Club Royale, and their program has actual some point definitions, in that if you do essentially $12,500 of coin in or 2,500 points in their program, you will for 100% be guaranteed to get an annual cruise of 7 nights. You will get free drinks, and you will get a waiver of any like cash advance fees and some other small perks. So they have a fairly interesting program in that's not actually a lot of coin in to receive kind of the first level of a casino loyalty program. I think even kind of relatively, somebody who goes to the casino maybe spends a couple $100 of gaming could potentially hit that relatively easily.
I do know some folks when you talk about gaming that I hear about casino hacking or casino
Mm-hmm.
gaming, like playing enough to get the comps without
Exactly.
going all the way to the end where you're like,
Yes.
oh my
Yes.
god, I'm mortgaging
That's what
my
I try to aspire to. That's my strategy, is to gamble enough to get something, but not so much that I'm like wasting my money, or hopefully I'm getting more out of the company than the casino program than I'm putting into it.
So let me give you. Let me just clarify for those maybe who've never, and they get these match plays, right? Like here, if you
Mhm.
come play, because they're trying to get you to play. So
Yes,
if they
yes.
give you, let's say, I'm using example. Let's say it's a $500 match play. You have to, um, play in like 500, correct, and then play through the 500 to get the 500 back. Is that how it works, or can you explain that for those who haven't
Do you mean
maybe
the
done?
manufactured spending aspect, or what do you
Yeah,
mean, the free play
um,
aspect?
the free play. Let me just the free play to.
We
I
can
mean,
talk
if
about
you
free
want
play
to play
first.
after
So
that, yeah.
a great example of that is, I got $100 free play on my most recent offer. So I'll just go into the casino, I put in my little PIN number and say, oh, there's promotion. So I'll go to promotions, and I'll load $100 onto this machine of free play. Okay. And you can't then just hit cash out and pull that money out. No, they want you to play through it. But the minute you win something, let's say I wagered $10 or $2 or $1, whatever it is, and I suddenly won $10, and now my balance says 110. I can pull out that $10, and that's money that I can have, and that's mine now, right? It's just that initial wager is something that you need to run through that money at least once, before you can really pull that money out. Because if you're going to try to pull it out, it's just going to go back in, or if the system's really bad, it might just go woof, which you don't like. So so that's free play. The other interesting aspect, from a points generation perspective, is I generally do take an opportunity once you're in one of these casino loyalty programs to do a little bit of kind of light manufactured spending. Or actually, you don't even need to be an elite member. You could just probably start off doing some of this light manufactured spending, because most of these slot machines and things are cashless nowadays, and so essentially, if you want to load $300 onto a slot machine, they can do it just by doing a room charge, which goes straight to your credit card. And So whatever you charge for that. Now you have to be careful because if you're going to just load $300 on the slot machine and then hit cash out, they're going to notice that pretty quick. And they're going to cut you off. They're going to be like, yeah, you can't do any more room charges. So they want to see you at least kind of run through some of that money, a little bit before. So if you just go in there and just do several, and you might be able to go in the first night and do a couple $1,000s of this, but you're not going to be able to do it the second night because they'll catch on.
With slot machine, is it more time spent at the machine? Is it a clock?
It's usually what they call coin in. So again, the program's for slot machines actually very simple. It's every $5 you wager is 1 point, and once you hit 2,500 points, you're hitting a threshold to meet the minimum for elite status with their casino loyalty program, and that comes with again some perks like you're guaranteed a 7-night cruise. Anywhere that they except during I guess like certain holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, they don't like you using those, but pretty much you can get that, and that's in an interior cabin, but you can always spend more to upgrade those if you really care about that. The other thing is, if you end up able to do, let's say, 1,500, like on this last cruise, I did about 1,500 points. So that'll tell you at 1,500 points, I did $7,500 of coin in. So I pushed the button, if it was a $1 bet machine, I hit that button, 7,500 times. Sounds like a lot. But with that, I automatically got a list of cruises that I had, a choice of, and they were all cruises between like now and about March or April of next year. So I just decided to book. While I was on that cruise, I ended up which was a 5-night cruise. I ended up booking another 7-night cruise in a balcony with $100 of free play and $100 of onboard credit. And the only thing I was out of pocket was, again, the port taxes and the gratuities, which did end up adding up to about $250. So,
and how much is a retail of that?
That was probably retail's probably at least $2,000, somewhere in that range. Because I did it as a solo person in one cabin, but if I had bought that on the street and went to the website and bought it, it probably would have been minimum, like a balcony solo cabin 7-night cruise in December, at least $1,800, I would think.
$1,800. I've been hearing this past year about a lot of offers for free cruises.
Yes.
Used to be discounted from some of the casino programs.
Yep.
Is that still available for folks? Can they still be able to kind of hack that right now? Is that something still available?
I think it's still out there. There's still options. There are so many blog posts about it. If you want, I can paste one in here. Is it okay if I just paste one in from Frequent Miler?
Absolutely. We love Greg and Nick.
Yeah,
Nick said to me when so Frequent Miler, Kendria, they were in our suite the other day, and then Nick said that next time we put a trip, he said he will go with us.
So there are a lot of these things out there. I know Carnival Fun Match is one that a lot of people have done and have been successful with, and that's just the way that a lot of people get on that kind of started on that train is getting like the Wyndham business card, which lets them match over to Caesars Diamond, which then they could potentially match over to MGM Gold, and then they can leverage that to put into Carnival and get a fun match offer. So that's probably one of the easiest ways that I find that doesn't involve even going anywhere. You don't even have to get into a car and go to an actual casino. You can do a lot of that, online or actually you might need to actually go into a Caesars property somewhere. Maybe I take it back, but still relatively easy. Mm-hmm. I can think of a couple other ones. I know in boarding area, just even today, they were talking about, Virgin Voyages has a way to redeem some Virgin Atlantic points, which currently has a bonus category bonus offer. So I'll put that in there too. That's another great one, although you have to position your way over to Europe for either Athens or Barcelona for one of these Virgin Voyages, which I would love to do. But, like I said, at this point, my problem is I have too many cruises that I have options to go on rather than the other way around. So my vacation balance is a limiting factor more than the opportunity to cruise.
Tom, you mentioned Virgin. Virgin's kind of the new hot girl at the bar right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're 5-star, adult entertainment, tasting,
no kids.
Michelin star, no kids.
Yes.
like it's like the cruises for like people who don't normally like to cruise.
Hmm.
Is there any status matching opportunities? Is that casino program have any relationship with any other program? Like, how do we get there other than having Virgin? Or is Virgin the only way to get there?
Uh, I mean, I think the easiest way that I'm aware, there's two ways. There's what I just put in the chat there, which is redeeming Virgin Atlantic points is one way. Another way is there is a virtual casino host out there called You Are Comped. And they basically act as kind of a middleman. They're kind of like a marketing firm where, once you are identified as a gambler, they try to kind of basically match you up with other programs that you aren't already a customer of. And, it's a way to feed kind of some of these gamblers to these various companies. So if you, once you get an offer, I think you can leverage that easily with this company. You are comped and get other offers. I've done it. I haven't actually sailed on one of their cruises, but and I haven't sailed on Virgin Voyages yet either. So I can't really speak too much to the quality of that cruise line. But yes, they're new. They're hip. There are a lot of interesting, and I hear the food is good. I hear that, I hear a lot of positives, a couple of negatives. But that it's definitely one of the interesting options that's out there. And literally this option to redeem Virgin Atlantic points that just came out like literally the last day or so.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know there are some people. We were just talking offline before that cruises may not be for everyone. Can we
Mhm.
maybe explain what are the things that are like pause about cruises that maybe some of us who haven't cruised before, why should we cruise or maybe why we should consider that, especially some of the concerns that people have about cruising.
Yeah, so I have a really, really close friend that I went to, high school and college with, and they were vehemently opposed to cruising. Like they hated it, the idea of it. Whenever I would even bring up the subject, I think they were like, who do you think I am? Like, why would I go on this why would I go on this, ship with like, 5,000 strangers and try to share my vacation with them? So, and one of the comments that she would make often is like, well, they're in the port, they're only in there for like 8 hours or 6 hours or 7 hours. And like, why would I want to go, on this vacation where I only have this short amount of time to see the country that we're visiting? I mean, it just seems silly. And part of, I think, the interesting thing about this person is this very close friend of mine is they were so vehemently against it, but we went on a 3-night cruise back in December of 21, and she loved it. It was amazing. She enjoyed it tremendously. And since then, she's been on like, I don't know, like 10, 20 cruises. No, it's some ridiculous number of cruises. Several with me. We've cruised together at least, a handful of times in the last year. And I think what you have to do is you have to kind of shift. It's a mind shift, right? It's not about the ports. The ports are kind of there to get people excited, get them to book or want to get on the ship. But a lot of time the vacation is about the ship itself. The ship is really the destination. And it's about the entertainment and the food and the activities and the things that are on the ship itself. A lot of times I think those are almost as important, if not more important, than the ports that you're going to visit. And oftentimes you'll find that the cruisers that cruise often, they're going to be times that they don't even get off the boat. They stay on. Especially if they've been to Nassau 15 times or if they've been to Cozumel 10 times. They don't want to get off again because there are some of these throwaway ports which are you don't really need to go to every time. But they also have their private islands and things like that. These are very nice beach experiences that don't really involve you spending a lot of time or effort or money. To have a nice day at the beach, have your food included, have a great pool to go to, have beach chairs, have attendants going around with frozen drinks, in a nice Caribbean setting. I mean, this is pretty, atypical or typical of what you would expect in a Caribbean vacation. And this is how people can get their sun worship in. They can read their book, they can have their kids do water slides and whatever else they need to do.
I was thinking about that right now because I just booked a vacation for one of my clients. He's taking his family, his extended family of
Mm.
12 people,
Mm, mm,
and he's
mm.
trying to coordinate multi cities, multi
Mhm.
countries. It's kind of a headache for
Oh,
him
it's
right now.
impossible. It's
We're just
impossible.
talking about maybe and I was talking about him come listening to you today about cruising. He's like, I'm not really a cruiser, but now that I think about this past vacation, cruising would have been the best thing for
I
this
I
group.
agree. I think for multi-generational type of vacations where you've got grandchildren, children, parents, grandparents all together, I think cruises are one of the best scenarios for that kind of a vacation because you have the entire demographic catered to, especially depending on the cruise ship that you pick. Some of the more modern ones, I mean, they have every single amenity for every single demographic and grade age group, and and what it allows you to do is have people, you have some people go to the kids club, you have some people go to the pool, some people go to the casino, some people go to the Broadway show, some people go to the nightly trivia, some people will go to the spa. You can have everybody break, do their thing, come together to the main dining room for dinner to eat together, because that's kind of the only time you really want to see everybody, and in some cases you can only handle it for like the 1 or 2 hours of mealtime. And then you want everybody to break and go do their own thing, but still have the opportunity to eat together, have community and discussion, and have that kind of experience that you're looking for.
Okay, I gotta ask you about this. I hear this from people who like to cruise a lot.
Mhm.
It's all about the drink package. Do we need to order the pay? Like, it's all because the drinks are expensive. I hear
They
on
are
the cruise,
expensive. They're
and then
expensive.
so you almost have to calculate how many drinks are going to drink,
Ooh.
like all that kind of stuff. Is it worth it for people to get drink? Like, if they like to drink, are the
Yeah,
drinks like real? Do they have to ask for a double? I mean, can they get that if they get a drink
I think
package?
they. I mean, let me first off, let me just say, Asian Glow. I can't drink that much. I'm a lightweight, so for me, 2 or 3, that's like the maximum alcohol that you're going to see me partake in any one session. So I'm probably a bad person to ask this question to, because I can tell you I never buy the drink package, and especially not lately, because I have reached a diamond level with Royal Caribbean, almost diamond plus now, and part of the one of the loyalty things with outside of the casino side, there's also a kind of a cruise loyalty section
Yeah.
of this. One of the advantages that you get after kind of hitting a certain level is they give you essentially 4 free drinks every day on Royal
Wow.
Caribbean, and that's an extreme perk. That's like its own little drink package,
That's like
and
guest of honor for Hyatt.
yeah, it really I mean, but so it's great, and on top of that, again, you get free drinks in the casino, with being a casino elite. So between those two things, I really have really no need for a drink package. I've got a pretty heavy Diet Coke habit. Even then, I find that between those, I do smuggle some Diet Coke. They're not really smuggled. You're allowed to bring some beverages on board, non-alcoholic. And even wine, by the way, you can bring a couple of bottles of wine, depending on the cruise line in many cases. But like I said, I don't need one. And use that hack as well. Look at the rules for each cruise line; they're all different, but many will allow you to bring a couple of bottles of wine or champagne. So if you're a wine or champagne drinker, consider doing that, and just buying your rest of your drinks a la carte. I think that's because some of these, by the way, when you get a drink package, it's usually you have to get it for yourself and anybody else staying in your cabin. So if there's two of you both have to get it. Okay. And so we're talking, if a drink package is like 100, $30-$40 a day, in some cases, could be more even in some cases. You're talking about, 200, almost $300 of drink package cost per day. This
Wow.
is crazy. It's almost more than the cruise fare in some cases.
Um, Now you mentioned Royal Caribbean. You have status with them, elite status with them.
Mhm.
They own a few other lines, don't they? Do they own
They
like
do. They
Celebrity,
own Celebrity. Yep.
right? And I remember when Celebrity first came out, I was all like enthralled with Celebrity. Like, ooh, they like before Virgin was around. And I don't usually hear them much. Is it?
They're still pretty stylish and up there. I mean, they're the premium arm, right? So there's Royal Caribbean, and Celebrity would be the kind of the upper scale version of Royal Caribbean. They're still very competitive with someone like Virgin in terms of especially their newer Edge class ships. Very stylish, very modern, very luxurious. I haven't been on them recently, but I started my cruising on Celebrity. That was where I started cruising.
Can we get on them with these food cruises? Can we ever? I never hear about Celebrity. That's what I was wondering.
So Celebrity, I believe there are, if you actually earn MGM gold, by gambling instead of, as a high globalist or explorist or through one of these other tricks. I think there is an annual cruise that is part of that loyalty program, MGM Rewards loyalty program, and in some cases that they will offer you a celebrity cruise and so and MGM and Royal Caribbean, they're partners, so they do things together. In fact, as a Diamond member on Royal Caribbean, I'm already a globalist, so that's how I match my MGM Gold. But if I wanted to go another way, I could match being a Royal Caribbean Diamond, for instance, to MGM Gold.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, why do you like? Is it just because of the MGM relationship already? Could you decide to do Carnival or the MSC or some of the other programs? Can you maybe clarify maybe some of the differences between cruise line to cruise line and what you like about the Royal Caribbean?
Yeah, and a lot, let me preface this by saying, a lot of people make a big hay about, this cruise line is better than this cruise line is better than this cruise line. By and large, they're all the same. There's a lot of differences. Someone's going to be slightly better here, slightly better there, but they might be worse here. So I think there's a lot of kind of tribalism, I think, in Royal Caribbean. Well, Royal Caribbean people are like, oh, I would never get on. You would never see me get on a Carnival ship. Like those people. But in reality, and I have not yet been on a Carnival ship, but I'm not against it. I've been on
the Carnival ships.
And I've been on Holland. I've been on Norwegian. I have a Princess cruise scheduled for next year. I would love to do a Virgin. I'm all about sampling everything. Although there is also an advantage, at the amount of cruising that I've done recently, I'm reaping the benefits of doing all that cruising with one line, because there are some loyalty benefits that I think I have extracted value from by giving that loyalty. And it's also nice, just you get used to something, you know what to expect, you get used to the systems, you learn the ins and outs, and when you get on board, you know what to expect, and it's like clockwork, and you also know when something's wrong. You say, hey, I've been on 20 cruises, this was not supposed to happen, you need to fix this. So
let me ask you, what kind of service recovery do they have on a cruise? Is it similar to in a hotel, or are you going to get different? I mean, in a sense, you're going on a cruise. Yeah. It's already all inclusive. So it's not like, oh, we can comp you dinner, or we can, waive your parking fee. It's already there. So what can they actually do for you from a service recovery standpoint then?
That's a great question. I wish I had more examples, but, I guess by and large, I haven't had to invoke it in many cases. That's probably a testament to Royal Caribbean, and that I don't really need to invoke service recovery often. It's more about just talk to the people that you're working with, and usually they're empowered to do some things. I send back food, and they'll bring me another steak, or they'll bring me something that's better. I might have a problem where I didn't like the room. There was a problem with the room. They'll move you, and they might not be able to do that all the time. And that's where maybe they will need to invoke some sort of service recovery. But I'll tell you, the one time I did get into a room and I didn't like the smell of it, they were able to accommodate me. They moved me into a better room, and so that's the kind of service recovery they can do.
Who's a contact there? Like, do they have a GM or the captain? I mean, do they have certain like hierarchies there? It's not just your room attendant.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's like a guest services. As a once you go a little bit higher up, you don't usually go to the guest service. You go to the Diamond Lounge, where it's just kind of like an airport lounge, where you've got different agents that can help you, that are a little bit more attuned to what you need and at a higher level, and they're more attentive, and you don't have to wait in line with 20 other people who are trying to do stuff.
Okay, so here's the thing. We know in hotels, sometimes you want to book a base room and get upgraded into. They obviously have upgrades within the system. Are there any special tips, Tom, how we could get upgraded? Maybe 2, 3, 4, I don't know. Are there any, or is there a way to do that? Is it similar in a hotel?
It is. They have an automated system. I can tell you, I can talk specifically about Royal Caribbean because that's where the majority of my experience is. They have a program called Royal Up, and if you do some searches about it, you'll probably find information about it. In some cases, it's been great. So I'll give an example. I was on a Baltic cruise, right? And this cruise was incredibly light in terms of its occupancy. There was maybe only 30 or 40% of the people on there. So I think they were very, very excited to get any money for some of these premium cabins. So I was able to upgrade a interior cabin to a grand suite. Okay.
And how many levels is that?
That's like it's incredible. It's ocean view, balcony, junior suite, something else, and then grand. It's like 5 levels up, you know. Um, and that was only for like maybe it was probably only for about $400, you know, something like that. That is a extreme example on one end of what you could do. I would never expect that. That is extremely rare, but it happens. Okay, so there's that. And then on the flip side, it's like maybe you go up one category for like $30 or $40, like that kind of stuff is probably more routine. Um, Incidentally, that system I think is kind of the same kind of automated system that you might find on in the airlines. You know, so when the airlines want to sell you a premium economy or a business class seat, you know, and bid up for one of those, it's the same kind of system. It's the same kind. I think it's probably even the same IT vendor that Royal Caribbean would use, that, you know, SAS or, you know, Finnair or somebody might use to do the same thing.
So you made me think of two questions. One is, did your status help you, or did you just offer? Did they offer you the bid, or do you have to ask to upgrade and then offer?
I made the bid. I don't know if my status helped me. I just think it was the situation probably that helped me the most, which was an extremely low occupancy cruise. So I think in a low occupancy situation, your chances are high because, you know, you know, they have plenty of rooms. They got to do something with these rooms, right? So they're going to be incentivized to upgrade a whole bunch of people.
So a low occupancy, is that because maybe you're traveling during hurricane season, or is it low season because your new line
That
just
was a very special outlier case. Now that was a Baltic cruise. Okay, this was right after, this was a Baltic cruise that included St. Petersburg originally, St. Petersburg, Russia. And this was, you know, after obviously the Ukraine invasion, they canceled that port, and a lot of people on that cruise did not want to go because the highlight of that cruise probably for a lot of people is to go to, because I got to tell you, I have been to Russia, I've been to St. Petersburg, I've been to Moscow. That is one of the hardest in outside of Ukrainian war. That's one of the hardest visas to get, right? So, you know, the fact is, a lot of Americans, you know, if we want to go ever visit Russia, probably St. Petersburg on a cruise is not the worst idea. And I think a lot of people did that. And so, you know, on top of it being still recovering from the pandemic, the fact that they had that port cancellation, that cruise was so quiet. It was the least, it was the lowest occupancy cruise I've ever taken.
And it's a big ship.
Big ship. About it was a Voyager class, as Voyager of the Seas, a Voyager class ship. I think they accommodate about 3,000 people normally. Wow. There were less than, I think less than 1,200, 1,400 people on it. So
that's awesome. Okay. By the way, folks, I see some of your comments. If you have any comments you want to ask Tom, definitely make sure you put them in the comment. Now, so Tom, so low occupancy gives you a chance to maybe move up. Is there a way to kind of figure out? I mean, I know that was a scenario, weird scenario, but is there other things that people should look at when they have a whole? Let's say I'm flexible, and I can travel anytime, and I want to take a cruise where I think I can get upgraded. What are some of the things I should be looking for?
You know, I don't know if upgrade strat. I mean, I think honestly, if you're dead set on a certain cabin or certain type of cruise experience, I wouldn't necessarily rely on the upgrade. You know, I think it's not exactly from a travel hacking perspective. I don't think that's where the you have as much opportunity, to be completely honest. And I say that because also, you know, the amount of opportunities. I mean, number one, you know, if you look at the cruise ship nowadays, the more modern ones, there's a lot of balcony cabins. It's in fact, I think that's probably the largest room category in many cases, you know. So if your goal is to upgrade to one of those, and you go, and let's say you go online and you see, you know, there seems to be endless balcony cabins, and you're like a week away from, yeah, maybe then you could use that, and maybe use that as a guide, right? So just go make a prospective booking. Don't book it, obviously, just, you know, see what kind of rooms they have. Because you can do that. You can go on the website and you say, I want an ocean view, or I want a balcony cabin, and then show me all the rooms are available, you know. You could use something like that to be your guide. But, you know, I think in some cases it's better just to book. If you really want it, just book it, and try to find other ways to offset your costs. You know, use points and miles to get your airfare or the hotel before. You know, those are things you can do. Or try to use some of these other, you know, status matching offers or other kind of casino offers. I will put something else in the chat. I find that one of the tools that I'm kind of missing is the equivalent of a Google Flights, right, for cruising.
Yeah.
and I found one. This is a very good one. It's called Cruise Plum. Um, uh, I find that they do a great job. I don't think you actually need to book from it, but it has a lot of that pricing information, and it'll make it a lot easier to compare, different cruise itineraries, and it'll kind of give you an all-in price too, which is hard to do. Oftentimes with those, Travelocity or those Expedia type of OTAs, or even the cruise lines and websites themselves, you have to click all your way through to get to your final price, right? And this is a way for you to kind of search and see, what is your out the door price without having to do a lot of extra clicking.
Let's talk quickly about insurance. I know a lot of people think about travel insurance, and I
Mm-hmm.
post a lot about travel insurance. And most people, when they think about it when they had to catch a cruise because it's non-refundable. The port's not.
Mm-hmm.
Do you buy travel insurance, or is that something important? Have you ever been left behind, or is that something that
I
concerns
have
you?
not been left behind, but I'm usually pretty paranoid about that stuff. So I usually get on the boat, plan to be on the boat, with more than 2 hours left before all aboard. Um, I usually, the annual cruise insurance, or I'm sorry, annual travel insurance seems to be, I think, the best option. Honestly, I do buy those annual like Allianz policies and things like that, and I've actually had to make a claim after a cruise, although it had nothing to do with the cruise itself. It had to do with getting robbed at Barcelona airport, after the cruise. And that insurance experience was generally pretty positive in terms of getting that claims processed and getting some money back to help not make me completely whole, but get me back closer to where I was. I think that they're helpful, obviously, for in case anything bad from a medical perspective were to ever happen. Obviously, it's less of a problem now, but originally my motivation with getting that was more about an unexpected COVID quarantine event. Where I would have to cover the costs of quarantining in a foreign country or something like that if I ever were to go positive during the middle of one of these vacations back when we were more in the height of the pandemic. But I haven't had to do that, but I still think it's not a horrible idea to get those. I think where it gets a little bit funnier is, and I don't want to speak about it, as if it's those cancel for any reason type of insurances, which are oftentimes a lot more important as you get a little older. Because where there may be a number of different factors that could impact your ability to actually enjoy a cruise vacation. And in some cases, if you did spend thousands and thousands of dollars for something and you're not in tip-top shape, or because of something that might have happened recently, maybe you do want to cancel it for that reason, and that's something that would only be covered by getting one of those cancel for any reason type travel insurance.
Travel insurance, yeah. That's really, really good. I'm folks, if you have any questions in the cruise, you go ahead and put that in there in the comments. Tom, I want to kind of transition a little bit into about your reselling business. I find it fascinating because we were in FTU and we had a
Yes.
guy there who talked about how he's selling ketchup to people in Nebraska. He's like sold ketchup, like a Whataburger has spicy ketchup, right?
Yep.
He's like, he walks in and he's like, I can get it for $4 because they got Whataburger everywhere in the market.
Yes.
The guy in Nebraska can't get a Whataburger, and he misses it because he used to live in Texas. And he'll go on Amazon and he said, "I'll buy it for $25."
People go to Buc-ee's, they want to buy the little beaver dolls, or they want to buy some Bucky. I don't know what Bucky Nuggets or something. There's so many different options for reselling out there, and you're right. A lot of times it's local, it's regional things that are only available in certain areas. I'm trying to think of what I can answer about reselling. I mean, it's not that complicated. I think you try to find a niche. You try to find something that you can buy, either reliably or have a nice little stockpile of, and that you can, then resell for more than you bought it for, and you have to be good at math, because you have to realize that just because you can sell it for more, you have to probably factor in a good, 50%, 40% markup of what you bought it for in order to be able to sell it with actually a profit, because there's a lot of overhead, when you want to sell on Amazon. I mean, Amazon takes their cut, which is not insignificant. There's the actual shipping cost, which is also not insignificant, depending on what you want. Ketchup might be, I mean, ketchup backups are pretty great, but I mean, if you were, doing these big, gallon buckets of ketchup, shipping that via USPS or FedEx or UPS, that's not a insignificant cost.
I I was asking him about like, don't you have to? Because he uses FBA, he uses Fulfilled
Mhm.
by Amazon. So he
Yep.
says he fills up this container, and he's
Yep.
like,
Yep.
"Kid you not?" He goes, "When I ship it to them, they have some slow price." I couldn't believe it. I still have to ask him more about it. But he's like,
Mhm.
he got it like from ship it to Amazon at least for
Yep.
like $4,
Yep.
$4 or $5.
And that's absolutely true. There are some caveats. The dimensions of the box have to be a certain size, and the whole box itself has to be less than 50 pounds. And they're very strict about this. So if you ever go above 50 pounds on the box, they will fine you, or somebody will fine you. Um, Things like food products, things to watch out for, expiration dates, so you'll send a
Expiration.
gigantic box of ketchup, that's all expiring in 2 or 3 months or whenever it is. And, then you're gonna have to pay to bring it back because, once it's expired, I mean, or you could sell expired ketchup, but, that may catch up with you one day.
No.
So
He said, not if you want to be a top, in the buy box. You don't want to
yeah,
sell expired stuff.
no,
You're
no.
the top. But it was really interesting because he was like, I talked to him afterward, and he goes, what's one good thing? Because I was talking about returns. People make returns too for things, and he's like, you know what? People don't return ketchup. They don't return the stuff like candy, something candies. Like they don't. He
Well,
goes, they'll buy a shirt and they need $40 to go free shipping, and they'll throw
yeah.
in candy or something like that to make it, and they'll return the shirt, but they won't return the candy.
I think in many cases with food products, and again, different platforms have different policies. I know Amazon, generally with food products, you can't return them. They can't be returned because the reason being is that obviously for safety reasons,
Yeah.
it's not like they can resell returned food.
Right. Right. So really interesting. And you were like for a while you were selling ladies' handbags, right?
I was,
Because
yes,
you're
yes.
the fashionista. Now, were they being
I'm
sold? Were they?
actually kind of the opposite. I was not getting these like jelly beans and like super fashion. Like I wasn't getting anything, too wacky, or anything because it was all black bags and brown leather and very conservative. I was about conservative, like stuff that doesn't go out of style kind of stuff, and
Things my mom would like.
yes, my demographic was 50, 60-year-old women. So, anyway.
And they'll buy it. So I'm wondering, um, do you have to have a fashion sense to understand, or do you have an app that tells you? Like, how do you
Well,
figure out
the
what's
fun
best?
thing about Amazon is, they have things like Keepa and there are other tools out there that give you kind of Amazon ranking information. And so one of the reasons why Amazon was such a game changer for resellers is, many resellers up till that point, they didn't have any data on what sold, right? And the interesting thing is it's freely available in most cases through the rankings of various products and categories. What is the best selling item? So I mean that's one of the geniuses of the Amazon marketplace is it's very clear if you have the 10th most popular handbag, it's a pretty well set, it's a pretty, popular and well selling item. And so if you can find something in that, very low rankings in a particular category, that if you buy it, it will sell fast if you're selling it at the market price.
Hmm.
So a lot of times when you're doing is you're going through stores, if you're doing retail arbitrage, which is one way to do it, which is you go to a regular store, you try to find stuff that's on sale or clearance or, deeply discounted for whatever reason. You use all your travel hacking skills in the retail sense and do, extreme couponing. And you scan these, barcodes of different items and see, hey, is this something that's going to be profitable? Because you can kind of put these into calculators and figure out, this is what it's going to cost, and you can also then look at the ranking and say, oh, how quickly is this going to sell? And use a little bit of your discretion to know that, in the shoes category, something that's ranking 10,000 was actually still probably a pretty good item. Whereas, if you're looking for scientific calculators, something in the 10,000 range of ranking is probably not a very popular item. So.
Very, very nice. Very nice. So, Tom, nowadays, when we talk about cruising, I know you mentioned you're doing a lot more cruising now and shifted your points. What kind of points are you collecting then to earn for cruises? Or are you still flying as much as you used to? Or,
I mean, you
you,
still have to some cases, position like my next cruise, I think, is from Southampton in England, so I have to make it to England. So in that case, I did utilize some Virgin points to take the local nonstop here. I'm going to disappoint some people. I'm going to be flying coach, but it's a pretty short flight. Dulles to Heathrow is only like 6 hours or something. It's really short.
Yeah.
I'm not, and it's not like Virgin Atlantic business class is all that great anyway. Maybe I'm gonna get some haters. I don't know. Maybe somebody loves Virgin out there. I don't know.
Tom is like, Virgin Atlantic business class not so good. I'd rather sit in coach. No, he's like, let me ask you. So you're flying Virgin in economy. I've never, I don't think I've ever seen lower class. I know they always call it upper class. What do they call their main cabin?
Yeah, it's upper
That's the
class,
worst
there's
name, by the way.
premium, and there's. Do they just call it main? I don't even know what they
Yeah,
call it.
main.
Actually, that's a
I
good
always
question. I
said
don't know.
upper class is like the worst name. It's such a classism type, like upper class.
Oh,
Therefore,
they're
everyone else
British.
is
Come
lower
on.
class.
I hope there's no British people in your group here, but I mean, come on. I mean, that's just standard British people. They love it. They love that kind of stuff. That's their favorite.
That's hilarious. Now, do you like Virgin Atlantic? I mean, I know about their clubhouse, but other than Virgin, do you like their cabins? They're not reverse herringbone. They're like
They're herringbone.
right. They're regular herringbone, right?
So depends on the. I mean, obviously, at this point, it's like there's so many different kinds of Virgin seats. It's kind of ridiculous. Um, but I know the one that they've been known for the longest time. It's the same one they use on Air New Zealand. Actually, is that one where it folds down, and it's your feet face the aisle instead of the windows. So it's herringbone, not reverse herringbone, and yeah, I mean the service is great, the food is great. The flight attendants are cheeky and cool and chic, and there's an onboard bar and there's all this amazing stuff. But the hard product, yeah, I'd almost I'm about to say something horrible. I might actually prefer the British Airways, like Yin Yangtze, that's like one of the worst business class in the world, because that Virgin Atlantic one is a. I mean, how about this? They're both very competitive from the UK, I think, because those are both horrible business class products. Anyway,
No, but I think BA is going to have a new business class now, aren't they? Don't they have
well, they have
new
the club suites. They have those are nice. I haven't flown them. I've just done the yin yang ones where you're like awkwardly looking
I
at
think isn't
people.
that like a 232
That's like
configuration?
dormitory style. There's like on the 777, it's like they're 4 across, I think, at some point. It's ridiculous for business class.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's see. Anybody else have any other questions? We're wrapping it up in the last 8 or 9 minutes. Tom, um, you've obviously had lots of cruises, flown a bunch. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about some of your favorite travels and what maybe
Oh,
we
wow.
can learn from some of your travels that maybe we didn't know that we could be able to definitely use to help us either cruise better or fly better?
Who you ask such an expansive question.
Let's talk about cruising better. What are some of the things that we absolutely should not pay for when we're cruising? That maybe you go, oh, that's a scam, or maybe that's not necessarily a scam, but that's a waste of money. Don't pay for that. Or if we don't, are there any things that we should watch out for when we're getting a cruise that maybe we should look for?
I mean, there's some obvious things. I mean, obviously the excursions that they will sell you. I mean, if there's a good one that you really love, I mean, you could do it. But a lot of times you just do your own thing. Do your own internet research and find a third party operator. I mean, people are always scared about missing the boat. I'm like, the people who are scared about missing the boat are always the ones that never do. Because they're they're concerned about it, right? And they schedule and they plan around that so it never happens. So I would say that's one. I would say specialty dining is another one that you have to be very, very thoughtful about. I think it's one of those ones where, um, my opinion, and again, everyone's different. People's tastes are different. I really like the main dining rooms on Royal Caribbean, for instance. I think they do a pretty good job. It's white linens. It's you can have 3, 4, 5 courses. There's it's good service. Maybe it's not it's not like haute cuisine, and you're not going to get like Michelin star, everything. But I think for what people are used to, I think if it's probably on par with what you'd be served in business class on an airline. In terms of if you're happy with what you're being served in business class on an airline, you'll probably be fine with what's being served in the main dining room as well. I think that it is hard to justify $50, $60 a person to upcharge you to a specialty dining experience and to receive a value. I think that's one of the things that I think, and we talked about it actually on a recent podcast, which I might make a plug for, where we talk about stuff like that. So.
Absolutely. By the way, let them know which one is it. The one with Trevor.
Yes, this is Trevor and I. We are on the Milenomics podcast network with Sam and Robert. I'll put a link in there in the comments as well, so if you guys want to take a listen to that. So
Awesome.
I think I've made that same point on one of the podcasts. I would say I would say one thing. If you like gambling, I would say definitely look into the gambling programs. If you don't like gambling, do not chase comps. Do not try to force yourself to get a free cruise. You're going to be miserable, and it's probably not going to happen the way you want it. So that's probably not the play here. I think if you enjoy gambling, then maybe that might be an avenue for you. Otherwise, look at all these other status matches and all these other things, because there's so many other options that are really good out there. I mean, they're really good options, which is surprising because, I was just reading the other day, the occupancy rates in the first quarter for people like Royal Caribbean and Norwegian, more than 100% occupancy, higher than 100% occupancy, which is crazy.
Where are they sleeping?
Well, most cabins most cabins are based on double occupancy, but there's a significant portion of those cabins that can accommodate 3 and 4 people. So once you have that third and fourth guest, those are part of that, over 100% occupancy. It's 100% occupancy is based on 2 people in a cabin, and there are many families that cruise where there may be as many as 4 people in a cabin.
Okay, I'm gonna do a quick rapid fire questionnaire to you. Okay, if we're looking at airlines, are you choosing British Airways or Virgin Atlantic?
Oh, can you tell me what route?
Let's just say like JFK to London Heathrow.
Ooh, I'm actually might pick Virgin actually, and I say that because the ground experience with the clubhouses is so much better, I think, than the British Airways lounge. The British Airways, even the Concorde room, it's a little bit of a letdown, if you ask me. They don't have that kind of X factor. Where the clubhouses, they're really nice. The a la carte food is fun. They have, you get a spa treatment, get a haircut, a lot of other options. I don't know how much of that is gone because of post-pandemic, but, that at least that was what has been in my experience. The clubhouses have been kind of a differentiator.
Okay, how about this? Favorite Star Alliance carrier?
Ooh, favorite Star Alliance carrier. Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, I would probably say Singapore if I had to, only because, I would probably say Singapore only because, they do have the best, kind of premium cabins, I think, between first and business and such. I mean, probably the only thing I can fault them with is no amenity kits in business class. That's probably the thing that I can't, but Book the Cook, Lobster Thermidor. What can you say?
Yeah. Least favorite Star Alliance carrier.
Oh, I might be flying that. I'm flying Ethiopian next month from Victoria Falls to Dulles with 2 tech stops. So,
have you flown them before?
No, I've never flown them before.
Maybe they used to play this LAX to Dublin one for a while, right?
Yeah, that was the tech stop. Was a Dublin tech stop. This one in Lomé is where the tech stop is for Addis Ababa to Dulles. But I bet actually I think I that's probably not the worst. I would imagine Egypt Air, or there might be another lot polish. Yeah, maybe Air. I've never flown Air India, so I can't say, and I've actually never flown lot Polish or Egypt Air either. But so I would say how about this? Of the ones that I've flown, what is my least favorite Star Alliance carrier? Oh, that's a good one too. Like I don't know. What is my least favorite Star Alliance carrier? I don't know. What's yours?
I'm not a Star Alliance flyer that I can't, but I have a lot of clients that always tried to tell me that they are trying to either avoid Air India or Egypt Air, but Egypt Air always has availability. But there's kind
Yep.
of a reason
Yep.
why it's
Yep.
always availability out of
There's
Cairo.
a
I mean,
reason why it's always
there's a
available.
reason why there's always availability.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
folks, if you're looking at using Aeroplan and you're going to fly Aeroplan and you're trying to go somewhere around the world or trying to do, and then
Mhm.
you're invariably going to run into the situation
Mhm.
where Egypt Air is your route to go around the world because that you need to, because they're the only ones that have availability.
I mean, that's Ethiopian for me. I mean, like, there's Ethiopian always seems to have some availability, and even Ethiopian is getting hard to get business class seats on nowadays, just because it's just that inflation around miles and points where it's hard to get premium class awards these days.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's say you had to do around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, and you had to have a
Which I've done several times.
one of the mileage plans. You had to have one of the mileage plans. Would you take ANA? Would you take Asia Miles, or would you go with Aeroplan, the new Aeroplan?
Oh, I would probably say Aeroplan, because Aeroplan seems to have, first of all, then I have the option of maybe doing Emirates, maybe I have the option of doing, I think they do Etihad too, right? Or they do, um, you have a lot of options with
They
Aeroplan. I
do.
think.
They have like 48
Yeah,
partners.
yeah,
They
they
got
have
more than
ridiculous.
everyone else.
Yeah, I would say of the three you just gave me, I would say Aeroplan.
So you like Aeroplan? Is anyone still doing ANA around the world? I know that was like thing, but it's like I feel like it's limiting
It's
because you got
so
to go west.
hard.
It's
It's so
hard, right?
hard. It's hard. I think the problem is back when the foreign carriers had a lot of award availability, even the foreign carriers now are reeling it back. Back in the day when when I first started in this hobby really hard, like in like maybe 2013 or something like that. Um, you would go and look at the Star Alliance carriers and you'd look at some of the non-US originating routes. They'd have tons of availability, tons, right? And that is no longer the case. I think even foreign carriers are doing better revenue management than they did 10 years ago. And as a result, I think it's getting the game has gotten harder. And that's part of my pivot. I think, I got frustrated, trying to put together these award itineraries. And honestly, I saw that cruising at the time, like especially last year, it was a unique and a unique opportunity, I think, for people to do cruising, again, with those cruise ships that are like 30-40% full, and I think that was the right pivot at the time. I think there's still a pivot to be had, I think, to cruising now, because hotels and flights are at definitely higher than pre-pandemic rates for airfare and hotel fare, right? So cruising has also gone up, but I think the value differential between those, cruising has not gone up as much. I think as hotel rates and airfare rates and the lack of airline availability. And that's why I think I'm still very much attracted to a cruising vacation. So
That's awesome. I don't know if anybody can tell, but Tom, I think one of the things I always want to bring on with my guests is somebody who has kind of historical perspective, who've been doing this game for some time, and be able to kind of give a reference point, because so many things, like when I not to knock any of the content creators now down in Instagram, but they're always showing someone sitting in Emirates, someone sitting in Qatar's Q suites and things like that. I see it all the time, and I'm
yeah.
fine with it. It's great, but sometimes it gives this distorted, that
Mm-hmm.
everybody, if I just had 70,000 A miles, like you can get on this too. Not even knowing that Q suites can be swapped the next year, you're not in a Q suite. Things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you. Well, as we finish and wrap this up, are there any if somebody was new in starting in points and miles and they said, I do want to fly business class and want to get that great experience. I have Amex points or I have Chase points. Which one would you say that they should use to make that book, that very first booking? What would be a great booking for them? What airline would that be?
Ooh, that's a great question. Like, what would you do? You probably would have had given them an answer maybe a month or so ago. Before this massive United devaluation, that United used to be a great one, because of the three alliances, at least your chances of finding something on Star, I think, are a lot easier than on SkyTeam or on
Wonderful.
AA or something like that. I Nowadays it's probably a slightly different answer because I think with the devaluation, I think you're not going to see the same value. I think if you were to try to use United, United Mileage Plus, um, I would probably say I think Alaska is another one that I really like as far as from mileage programs because again, a ton of partners. Um, I think going back to your original question, I think Aeroplan is also not a horrible one to do because I mean, number one, that's Amex and Ultimate Rewards. So,
Yeah.
I think that's one where you're going to most likely find something. And I think I think as a new person is you don't want to be discouraged. You don't want to just keep checking and not see anything. You want to be able to actually have a win, and actually be able to book something. And I think your chances or your chances of success of finding close to what you're looking for might be good on Aeroplan because you have so many different options. That would probably be my guess, and which it doesn't really answer your question about whether it's Amex or Chase because it's both.
I'm just saying, most of the people, I mean, I recommend most people start off with collecting Chase points and expand into Amex later after they get all their
Mhm.
Chase cards underneath their
Mhm.
belt. Let me ask you this: most of us, when we started, didn't have these fancy tools now to give us award availability. We had to go to the airlines
Yeah, we had to
directly,
do it the old fashioned way.
old fashioned way, which is
Mhm.
I don't recommend. I teach my students how use whatever tool is available to help you get
Mhm.
on that flight and find it faster. So we talk about Point.me, we talk award logic.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, I'm starting to talk to them about Seats Arrow, which is a new tool that is out there. Are there any favorite tools that you use to help, that you use right now when you're looking for award availability that helps you?
Well, I yeah, I am an old school kind of guy, and I have used those tools, and sometimes they are very helpful. Honestly, a lot of times I do go straight to the programs themselves, and part of my process, I'll just say, is I think that you can use those tools, and I think a lot of times you will get good results. And I think for people who are just starting out, that's probably the right answer. I'll speak to what I do is I tend to not use those tools because number one, they're not always accurate, and in some cases, the when you find stuff, it's what's not in those tools, right? I think what's happened is that the we live and again I think I've talked about this on a previous podcast. We live in an inflationary environment in the miles and points environment. It's like we all are shopping in the Soviet grocery store. Okay, and there are these lovely loaves of bread that are only in certain Soviet grocery stores, and when you see it, you're going to go ahead and grab it as quickly as you can. Okay, you may not even want that loaf of bread, but the fact that it's there, you're going to go and grab it. And that is the environment that I think we live in from a points and miles perspective. Because how Ben, how many prospective bookings do you have? Do you have flights you are not intending to book at all, but you have them booked and saved?
Mhm.
I bet you a lot of our peer group are in that situation. I've got some flights that I have booked that I probably will not actually fly, but I booked them. I've tied up that inventory. It's gone. It's not available for anybody. And there's lots of people chasing a scarcity of goods, and I think it's those kind of flights that people aren't thinking about to like secondary cities, or maybe they don't originate in the U.S. or they're those type of things where I my favorite tool, Wikipedia, because if there is an airport that I need to get to, I go to Wikipedia for that airport and I see what are the routes for that airport, and I think, okay, what are some of the non-obvious things that people are not going to be doing, and that's where I like to start. So for me, it's more of kind of an investigation kind of thing, and it's a little bit more of a scavenger hunt.
I see. They came up with a tool for that too. Tom, I teach them how to use that too. Because I usually tell everyone to go to Wikipedia too. I'm like, Wikipedia, everyone. But now they have a tool. But now they have a tool called Flight Connections, where literally you can put in the destination and it tells all the routing there where it goes with like a map, fancy map
Yeah, but
now.
I think, but that would be like it's like analysis paralysis. They give you too many options. Like sometimes.
There is. And I pay for like the premium version so I can
Mhm.
see what the flight of the airline that flies and how many times they fly. I mean, there is. Tom, I agree with you. This is a side that people don't see on Instagram. Like posted, I'm like, you need to know what's like behind it. That's why I'm like
Yeah,
at the beginning
yeah.
of my class, I'm always like, hold on, folks. before we go in points and miles, let's see if we can find a cheap cash flight because that will give you exactly where you're trying to get to from point A to point B.
Yep.
And then I go compare it, then I go, okay, if that flight is too expensive, let's look at points and miles. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm always advocate for them look at the cash flight first.
I
And earn some
agree,
status
because
miles.
sometimes that is the answer. Like in many cases, people are like, I don't want to spend any money. I know there are people who like, I don't get me wrong, I like to be frugal too, but sometimes the best answer is, pay for the fare, because sometimes you then earn miles, instead of using them, you know. Some of my favorite purchases have been, like a British Airways flight that credits 350% for first class, or some premium class to Alaska Airlines, and then I use those miles and go somewhere where on Cathay or JAL or something that is much more advantageous for that currency.
Absolutely, absolutely. Earn the miles, folks. Earn miles when you fly. This is the business traveler in me. I'm like, I'm trying to earn miles when I fly. But
It is increasingly tough to do, but there are those niche cases where it makes a lot of sense, and business travel hasn't returned, right? So a lot of the people buying these premium fares are not people who are going to spend $10,000 for a business class ticket. They're going to spend $2,000, $3,000 for a business class ticket, and mind you, that's a lot of money.
yeah,
But in some cases, that's not a horrible price to go round trip from here to here, in a business class seat, and then you're earning 30,000, 40,000 miles in a program, and then you're halfway. That might even be enough for a one way in business class somewhere else. So it's like you've basically bought round trip, and you've gotten 50% back as a rebate almost.
We're gonna finish with one last question. What is the best travel deal, travel hack, mistake, fare, error, failure you ever? And then you're like, oh man, I wish this one comes back again. What is this one that you like? Like,
probably the one probably the one that I did that I exploited the most was that Da Nang fare. Do you remember the Da Nang fare on Cathay Pacific first?
2000 on New Year's Eve, December 30th,
Yes.
2000. Yes.
How many of those did you? How many did you do?
I only did 2.
I did 4.
Wow.
So that was an amazing fare.
That was the best.
It was the best.
That was the best.
I have so many PJs right now. They're the best. Cathay Pacific first PJs. They're actually the best.
I have them with you right now. They're the best.
They're the best. And they even come with you get a free thing from PYE. You have
a coupon. You can go into the store.
They're still good. I still have some that are they don't expire until 2025. I think you get a I think you go to the store in Hong Kong, and they'll give you a box of handkerchiefs. I don't know if you can see it.
Ooh.
That's what this is. That's one of the gifts, or $100 off of get something over there. But this is the free gift that you can get for. Let me see if I have a coupon around here. I still have a few of these coupons, the first class PYE coupons.
Yes.
That are fortunately good until 2025.
So I tried. By the way, I tried to get my group to get the free round trip ticket on Cathay last week.
Oh, did you?
I had 25 people. My class started at 5:00, which is the time that they have to launch. So I said, hold on, everybody. We're all going to do this concurrently. And I had 2 people get in, but they all air it out at the end. And they were going to give me the ticket because they didn't have their Cathay. They were so nice. My class was so great. But we didn't end up getting, but they crashed the system.
I can only imagine. I don't know how many tickets they were giving away.
It was like Taylor Swift. It was literally trying to get Taylor Swift tickets. It was crazy. Yeah.
But yep.
Well, Tom, I want to thank you for joining us. This has been fantastic. I think folks got a glimpse of what great Tom can bring to the table here. I want to thank you very much for sharing us your insight on cruises. Tom, can you tell everyone how they can get a hold of you or where they can find you again about your podcast? You can bring that up again.
Sure. I mean, it's the link is in the comments there. There's a link for the Milenomics podcast, and our podcasts are called Travel Stories. There's actually, I think, one up on Apple Podcasts right now, and I think it's also on Spotify. But definitely check it out. We just started it a few months ago. We're up to, I think, episode 11. I think is the last one that we just published. I think it's really fun, and it's we do it with my friend Trevor. We've both been in the miles and points game for a while, and we love it, and we love talking about it, and hopefully you guys can get some nuggets of information as you're listening. I think we've got a good perspective, and we've got some guests that join us, and we have a genuine love of travel and of doing it cheaply and with the maximum value. So but we're also not against buying stuff now and again. So we're definitely not on the extreme end of some of these people who are like, no, I'll never pay for anything. Like, okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's realistic, and that's not always a good use of your points when you think like that.
Nope.
Tom, thank you very much. Look forward to having you, folks. This is a kind of the what I call my Formula series, but it's also the kickoff for our academy, our 12-week academy. Tom, I'm actually kicking off a brand new class every week, every Thursday, starting June the 1st all the way through summer. And what we're going to be covering is airline one week, hotel the other week, credit card the other week, and then the last week I have a special guest like yourself to come in and bring something special. This first month, we're going to be talking about how to hack timeshares.
Oh,
Really excited
I
about
might
that.
need to. Maybe I need to sign up for this
You
academy.
need to come in and talk, Tom. I have a lady who literally during the pandemic, she actually started let me give you a background. She started at 16 years old in the timeshare business as a sales
Hmm.
manager. She leaves a timeshare, goes involved and creates a great real estate company, comes back on the timeshare, says, I need to find ways I can travel. And during the pandemic, she lived in timeshares 6 months out of the year, all around the world. She says that she owns 22 timeshares.
Oh
And
my Lord.
and she says you can be able to buy them for as little as $1,500.
Hmm.
And she's like, I spend $530 a week at timeshares around the world, and see, actually last year she bought 22 of them and she flips them. You know how people flip houses? She flips timeshares.
I can see that. That sounds cool.
Yes. So I'm really excited. She will, Peggy, she will be the last week, the third week or the fourth week of the new class that we have. So I'm really excited. She actually has a class. She runs a Facebook group with 20,000 people, just teaching them how to use their timeshare. And then from there, she has like an advanced class where she shows them how to be able to buy it for a lot less than what they bought it for from Marriott or from Hyatt directly. So it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to having that.
That's a very niche topic that I can see. I can see a lot of interesting stuff there, just because it's not something you hear talked about a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not talked about at all. Thank you again, Tom. I appreciate everyone who's joining us. And if you're watching this on replay, make sure you follow Ben's Big Deal on Instagram, on TikTok, as well as our Facebook group. And you can also come check out my website, bensbigdeal.com. And if you're looking to save on travel and spend less and travel better. Thank you again.
All right. See you later, Ben.